I titled my talk, 3 Miracles, but you won't get to find out why until the very end. But there might be hints throughout, so pay attention. On a March afternoon, Snowball's life changed forever in an instant. Snowball and her owner, Tom, were out in the backyard, kind of lazing about like they like to do. Snowball actually liked to play with the hose and wait for the water to come out of the hose. Tom needed to go out front and get something out of the front yard, and heard the screech of tires. And right away, he knew something was wrong. He went out to the front and turned around and saw Snowball lying in the street behind a car. Spoiler alert, Snowball's fine. Snowball is okay, all right? Now you may be wondering how I know Snowball's story. Well, like Sharon said, my name is Ron. I'm the hospital manager at the Oregon Humane Society. What that means I do is I make sure the hospital runs effectively. That goes from anesthetizing pets for surgery, speaking with vendors, or even making the doctor's coffee to keep them happy. So any of those types of things. One of the other things is also hearing from the public about the medical needs of their pets. And that's how I heard Snowball's story. And I'll talk about that. Tonight I'm going to talk about Snowball's story, what happened to Snowball, what we did for Snowball, and then also just give you a taste of the scope of problems like Snowball's within our community. So I first heard Snowball's story, like I said, coming in on a Monday morning. I had 7 voicemails on my phone. I am extremely popular, very, very popular, but that's even a lot for myself, right? Now they were all from this guy named Tom. I had to bring my cat Snowball in over the weekend. Snowball got ran over by a car. I just want to make sure Snowball's okay. Is there anything I can do to help? He also wanted to express his gratitude for us, as well as for a Good Samaritan. Now what this Good Samaritan did was actually drove him and Snowball to the emergency clinic and actually paid for the initial exam for him and Snowball. And do you know who that Good Samaritan was? It was the person who ran over Snowball, actually. That's a hint. That could be a miracle. Could be a miracle. Well, it was a good thing that they were there to help out, because that initial exam ended up costing $600. Now, for us in this room, that may not seem like a whole bunch, but that was more than Tom had at the time. And for Snowball, that was the difference between getting an exam and euthanasia. So it was very helpful, because within that exam, Snowball was able to get some x-rays, and what we found was this. Now, I think what they teach you in vet school is that whenever a red circle appears on an x-ray, that's bad. That's probably. No, but seriously, this is a fractured pelvis. But everything else is fine. That could be a miracle. All the other internal organs were just fine. We're only dealing with the fractured pelvis. Awesome. So now, hours have passed. Good Samaritan's gone. They've done their part. And Tom's left to work with the emergency clinic. Tom's speaking with the emergency clinic, what are my options? We know Tom doesn't want to euthanize, but we also know Tom has no money. He doesn't have any income. What is Tom going to do? The emergency clinic says, well, Tom, I guess you can go to the Humane Society. They may not be able to fix Snowball, but they can probably at least euthanize for free, I think. So that's how Snowball gets to the Humane Society. And I'll go on in a little bit and talk about what we do for Snowball there, but I just want to let you all know. We talked about that was how Snowball ends up getting to the Humane Society, okay? So now we're going to fast forward a bit with Tom needing to figure out how to get to the Humane Society. So Tom doesn't have a car, right? He had to get the Good Samaritan to give him a ride. He has to get a taxi just to get him and Snowball to the Humane Society. Wow. Well, when he gets there, we check out Snowball, we review these rads in horror, and try to figure out what can we do. Obviously, the emergency clinic was proposing pretty extensive specialized surgery. Now, we have fantastic doctors, but their specialty is shelter medicine. And what that really is making the most out of very limited resources. We're awesome at that. So what did we decide to do? We said, what about kennel rest? What about drugs? Why don't we keep this cat comfortable and see what happens? So that's what we did. Obviously, this isn't Snowball. This is just an example of what that looks like. But that's what we did. We kept Snowball in this kennel rest for weeks while we let time and nature do a little bit of work for us. This is something special that we can do. This doesn't mean the emergency clinic made the wrong decision. This is just something that we have the capabilities to do. And not a lot of shelters can do, not a lot of clinics can do, and that's why we're special. And so that's something to acknowledge. So Tom didn't forget this entire time. Tom didn't forget. He kept in touch. Weekly, he would ride the bus over, delivering baked goods, because he didn't have anything else to give. And he also really bragged about his cooking. He says he's a wicked good chef. He's pretty proud about that. Cakes, cookies, pies, all this stuff. He would also usually write a letter with these deliveries. I'll just kind of read through some of the highlights. Thank you for caring so much for Snowball. He means the world to me. I love him more than anyone. I miss him. I can come up with 500, 600 in a few days if needed, and I would sell everything I own. I know he is in good hands with people who love him as much as I do. He never forgot. He was really, really grateful. It's pretty amazing. Now, we'll get back and finish Snowball's story in a bit, but I want to take this opportunity to discuss the problem in the community that Snowball's story just highlights, because this is, like I said, one of the many that I hear. So within the community, in 2014, we had 248 pets actually brought into the hospital for financial reasons that are medical. Most were urgent needs like Snowball. These aren't negligent owners who were irresponsible with their pets. You know, Tom, they hang out in the backyard all the time. He loves his cat. It was a one-off accident. The other thing it makes us think about is how many more are in our community that we don't even hear about. Tom's an extraordinary guy, but how many would have said, you know, I think we should probably just euthanize Snowball. So it makes you think about that. It also makes you think about 248, a number like 248. What does that mean? You can't really totally grasp what that means, but what that means, Snowball was with us about 2 months, I'd say, give or take, and we'll talk about that. In that time, 40 other pets with a similar circumstance as Snowball came into the shelter. 40 other pets requiring those same extreme needs all came in to the shelter. Now, I had a hard time even cramming 40 pictures of pets up here, let alone cramming 40 pets in the hospital. Because our hospital was originally intended for spay and neuter only, at a volume much less than we currently do. My friend likes to say, it's so tight in there, it's like a Bruce Springsteen concert, but without any music. I don't even know what that means. I'm glad you guys did. But it highlights, it tells us that this is an issue that's continuing to grow within our community, and that it is significant. And I'll wrap up talking about Tom's story. Obviously, Tom's not a professional photographer, I know. But this is Tom, and this is Snowball. A couple of months passed. Tom kept making his weekly deliveries. And, you know, we'd never intended for Snowball and Tom to be reunited, because that's just not what we're able to do there. But Tom had been coming so much, I said, you know what, Tom, do you want to go see Snowball? Do you want to see how Snowball's doing? Of course he did. Of course he did. So we were able to bring Snowball out, meet with Tom a little bit, and Snowball was like a new cat. You know, the time before, it was like, we just thought the cat was so doped up. Obviously, the cat was sedated. This is just, you know. But when he saw Tom, it was like a whole new cat. No amount of pain meds could have created the change in this cat that seeing Tom was able to do. He stood up, he walked around, he started purring and headbutting Tom. Obviously, we had to return that cat to Tom. So we said, you know what, Tom, you gotta take Snowball back. You have to take Snowball back. Tom is a great guy. Tom says, nope, not for free, not for nothing. I'm gonna get you some money. And that's the kind of guy Tom is. So after a week or so, Tom sold some stuff and was able to raise about 500 bucks. And now there's a Snowball back at home. Getting around, really happy, cruising around. They still hang out in the backyard. Everything's safe, everything's okay. But this is Snowball back at home. So I'll close with the 3 miracles. What were the 3 miracles? They were all in there. I don't know if you got them, but I'll highlight them for you. So the first miracle is that Snowball, oh my gosh, the reason I call this 3 miracles, I'm so sorry, is that this is what Tom says every time he tells this story, and he tells it often. He tells it all the time. Tom would be really upset if I didn't give him credit for the title. 3 miracles. The first miracle is that Snowball got ran over by a car and lived. Wow, that is definitely a miracle. The second miracle is this Good Samaritan who drove them to the emergency clinic and then paid for that exam. Wow, that is definitely a miracle. And then Tom likes to say that the third miracle is us, OHS. We were there, we were able to heal Snowball and then eventually reunite them. Now, I like to think about it that maybe there's a 4th miracle out there. Tom's a pretty miraculous guy, or at least he's unique and special, and he definitely went above and beyond for his cat. So I like to think about it like that. But I want to close asking you a question. Do we do the right thing for Tom, and did we do the right thing for Snowball? Because if you think we did, there are probably more miracles we can do out there. Thank you.